Meeting to order of the Yorktown Community School Board of Trustees. And if you'd stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and you may be seated. Okay, this is a special session to approve a couple of different things. We're going to propose we have our budget public hearing. We're also going to talk about our teacher appreciation grant, an update on the roof. We're going to approve our CBA with the Teachers Association, as well as recommended raises for the rest of our staff, including non-certified and administrative and non-bargaining. So we will start, as we always do, with any public comment. Anyone wish to speak tonight? All right, moving on to item 3. 3A is our teacher appreciation grant kind of plan. So we have guidance now from the DOE. It's interesting guidance, but I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look at the criteria or not. So, there's 3 different levels. It talks about eligibility for the recognition level, the exemplary level, and the exemplary plus stipend. It's really good money. We had talked before, and I think other corporations have talked before about, do you opt in or do you opt out? I don't know what your thoughts are, Dr. Henshaw, but, most of the corporations that I'm talking to now are going to try to opt in and come up with a plan. Yeah,
so that's
money on the table.
That's why this is on here for discussion. We will have to submit a job form to the state before the end of this week to basically specify our interest in moving forward. And several of the associations, IASBO, ISBA, IPSS, I don't know about ISBA, but the other 2 definitely have come out and very clearly said that they think districts should not turn the money down. So I've had multiple conversations with lots of other superintendents, and at this point, I think my recommendation would be that we go ahead and indicate to IDOE that we're going to move forward with that. That doesn't mean we have to take the money. I think then we would want to work with YTA and develop a plan. That's not required in the statute, but I think that's a good practice.
Yeah.
And one of the concepts that I have seen that I like, I read it to say that the first and only required indicator is performance on some kind of an objective assessment of students. And so I think that's the first screen. And what I like beyond that is that you have the flexibility to add some other requirements. And I know a colleague elsewhere in the state who is essentially going to create these positions that people can apply for some extra duties. And so my concept would be that we look at the data to determine who would qualify on the assessment side, and then we try to have roughly 30 positions available, up to 30 positions available that would be for extra duties as a mentor, as a team leader, grade level leader. And it wouldn't necessarily be to supplant positions that we already have, but it would be to supplement. And then those positions would be the ones that would qualify. And also the thing that I've heard that a lot of people are doing is only attempting to give the lowest level stipend this year until they have more information. So our goal would be to craft a plan that could be approved that would give 30 stipends at the $3,500 level, and that people would know in advance that they were being considered for that, rather than retroactively trying to apply it on the basis of data. So I don't know if you have opinions or guidance, and Dr. Sturgeon and Karen and I have already met, and I've actually got a meeting later this week with a couple of my colleagues in the county to talk about what they're going to do. So
I think it makes sense to take it and figure out a plan. So appreciate it.
Okay, Board, what do you think?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
Do we need to?
We'll just, you say yes? Okay.
I'm
I thought we
glad that
would
we're
agree.
looking at a plan and not just
Yeah.
Leaving
doing
money on the
exactly
table.
what this says.
I mean, it's roughly $100,000 of
Yeah.
new money for us. I don't know if it's new money because we got tagged last year, but additional money. So we'll keep you posted on our plan.
Okay. Item 3B is a roofing update.
So I am still in the process of doing my due diligence on this, but I was contacted by another superintendent that I know well with a recommendation for a roofing contractor, and I ended up making contact with them. And they have, actually the manufacturer that they work with has presented a proposal to us, a budget proposal that it looks pretty good on paper. It's a materials and labor 25-year warranty, 20 or 25. I think you can buy up to 25. And it's significantly lower than any other estimate that we have received. So I have been in contact with multiple other districts that have used both this manufacturer and the installer. And the short version is that the feedback has been mixed. So I've gotten some people that are very enthusiastic about this manufacturer and the installer, and I've gotten some other people that have been not as enthusiastic. And so I'm still wading through that, but trying to figure out the cost benefit analysis here, the trade-off of the dollars and cents versus the warranty. So I want you to know I'm still in process, and hopefully within the next couple of weeks I'll have a plan to present to you.
And that's a replacement option, not the.
It's total tear off down to the decking and replacement. So, and it's mechanical fasteners, and we would take care of all the flashing and
Good.
So.
And Defer Moran has given us an opinion that then.
So it's also sold through a cooperative purchasing agreement, a different cooperative purchasing agreement than we talked about before. So I went back, we talked to SBOA first, and then we went back to Defer Moran, who said, yes, this one will comply with the statute, but you'll have to bid the labor. So I'll keep you posted. I just wanted you to know that I haven't forgotten about the roof, and some of it almost seems too good to be true, which makes me do even more due diligence to try to say, okay, are we really certain that we're.
Did you tell me that HSE is using them currently now, but the project's not done?
Correct.
Okay.
I just started with them.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've talked to half a dozen other districts in the last couple of weeks on them. So anyway.
Cautiously optimistic,
yeah.
Right? Well, that's great news, potentially. Okay, item 4A is approval of our collective bargaining agreement with YTA.
So it hasn't changed since the hearing that we had a couple of weeks ago, and it has been ratified by the Teachers Association. So I would ask for approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion from Mr. Kelly and a second from Mrs. Castaway. Any further comments or discussion, board?
Way to go, Yorktown, for having that starting salary.
Are we higher than Muncie?
I think so.
I
Okay,
think
good.
we're, yeah.
We got into an
Yeah.
argument with somebody about that the other day, so. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I hesitate to make superlative statements, but I haven't been able to find anybody that has a $55,000 starting salary. Do you know of any? There may be some out there, but I haven't been able to find anybody. It's higher than, we were already higher than IPS last year.
Yeah.
So, and we were already higher than several of the Hamilton County districts, probably maybe all the Hamilton County
Yeah,
districts.
I think pretty close.
So, and I will say, we got to watch our enrollment trend as we get full, and we have this conversation about the general fund funding, the education fund funding, which is enrollment dependent, but we can do it for this year, and we're happy to be able to do it. So it's good.
Okay, on the heels of that is item 4B, which is our administrative and non-bargaining unit certified salary increases for 25-26.
So there are roughly 8 people that you would think are teachers, but they're excluded from the bargaining unit through a long process, and as well as all of our administrators. And so this would be to approve a raise for them. It's a $1,500 raise, just as it is for teachers. And it's for this school year.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Mr. Kelly and a second from Mrs. Gillespie. Any comments on this one? Okay, all those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 5-0 as well. Item 4C is our non-cert wage increases for 25-26, Dr. Henshaw.
So the base increase here is typically 2% across the board. There are some salaried individuals who are non-certified for which the increase is capped at $1,000. And part of the reason for that is those people are already on certified insurance benefits. And we did give some additional contributions to teachers for insurance. So that bleeds over to those selected non-certified positions and actually has more cost to the district. So that's kind of to offset that. And there were some other individual cases that were detailed in the memo there that are, in most cases, they're more than 2%. Basically, they're market adjustments because as we've looked at comparable positions or trying to differentiate between some job categories, there are a few places where we've increased. So if there are questions, I can answer those. Otherwise, I would ask for approval.
So moved.
Got a motion from Mr. Brooks. Can I get a second? A second. Thank you very much, Mrs. Gassaway. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 5-0. All right, moving on to item 4D is our agreement with Policy Analytics.
Some of you may remember, or maybe Ryan and Tom will remember, that we hired Policy Analytics a few years ago to do, it was basically a report on TIF and redevelopment, the impact on us, as well as just the breakdown of the abstract of the assessed valuation. And Policy Analytics, I guess I would call them a boutique firm. They're one of the only organizations in the state that specifically looks at municipal finance at the property tax level. And so with the impact of SEA 1 and not really having a clear sense from anywhere, Policy Analytics will come in and do a specific analysis to Yorktown. The cost is $12,500. It would include an initial report and 2 follow-ups as more data is available. They're also willing to come and make a presentation to the board if that's your wishes. But at this point, we know what we know, but we don't know what we don't know. And I think Policy Analytics is going to be able to give us a lot better indication of direction. They're not going to be able to give us final numbers, but they're going to give us a much better indication of direction, especially as we get our AV, as that first circuit breaker comes out in 26 under the new system. And so I would just ask for your approval to engage with them to do that.
Motion to approve.
Second. A motion from Mr. Kelly and a second from Mr. Brooks. Any further discussion, board?
Are they different than like a Baker Tilly, or is it the?
Yes, I mean, Baker Tilly is a financial advisor in the sense that they're helping you through, I would call it more of a macro level.
Okay.
Whereas Policy Analytics is more of a micro level. Is that a fair comparison? I'm using econ terms, but I might be misapplying them. But it's going to be, they're looking at specific individual units, and I think they're very specific on the property tax side. Do you agree with that? I think they do other stuff, but the last time we hired them on the recommendation of Baker Tilly, who said, we can't do this work for you, but Policy Analytics can do it. So that's how we got them.
Perfect. Oh, I didn't even sign it. Sorry.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions? If not, I'll call for the roll. All those in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries 5-0. Okay, so item 5, do I need to open a public hearing for this, Dr. Henshaw?
Yes.
All right, in that case, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing to consider our 2026 proposed budget, our 2026 proposed capital projects plan, and our 2026 proposed bus replacement plan. So I'll open the hearing now. Anyone want to comment prior to us getting started? Okay, Dr. Henshaw, do you want to talk in any specifics about
Yeah.
item A, B,
So-
and C?
Again, we're not going to vote on anything tonight. This is just the hearing. And you have 3 documents that have to be presented here in the hearing. The Form 3, which is the notice to taxpayers of the overall budget, the capital projects plan, the bus replacement plan. I'll just say candidly, the capital projects plan is very different than it used to be back before we changed our funds all around. And they're very high level, loose estimates. They used to be extremely important, and if you didn't have enough money in one part of the plan, you'd have to do an additional appropriation to re-advertise your plan. The bus replacement plan used to, you had to have a plan to show replacement of your entire fleet over 12 years. Now it's a 5-year plan, and we do work really hard to try to demonstrate that we're working to replace our buses on a 12-year cycle, but it's just not possible with the circuit breaker. The comparison sheet I give you every year, and Dr. Sturgeon's got it pulled up there. What I would say is that mine decided not to open, but let's see if I can get it.
You don't mind?
No, I can look here. But basically, what I like to show you every year is what we advertised last year against what we're advertising this year. And so you can see that we're actually, in terms of our total advertised appropriation, we're advertising a slightly lower budget, but our tax rate, we're advertising a slightly higher budget, or a higher tax rate. If we go down to the next set of rows, you'll see what the approved budget was and what the approved tax rate was. And you can say, well, how can you advertise a $1.61 tax rate and you ended up with $1.07? If you go back and look at your comparison sheet from 25 down in the explanation, you'll see that we predicted the tax rate to that exact amount down to, what would that be, 1/100 of a cent there per 100. So what about the anticipated tax rate and the anticipated budget over on the right-hand side for 26? Well, the short version is we don't know enough to know because we do not have a certified net assessed valuation for payable 26 yet. We didn't have it last year at our hearing. We got it before our adoption. So maybe that'll happen. We're one of 8 counties that has not certified net AV of the 92 counties. So that's a little bit of a limitation on us. But I'm still predicting roughly a 14-cent tax increase, and we can get down in the weeds. And the old rule is if you don't advertise for it, you can't get it.
Yep.
And so if you misadvertise and you advertise too low, the DLGF does not go back and give it to you. They say, too bad for you. Although I think they're nicer about it than they used to be. So you must advertise high in order to ensure that you get everything that you need to cover your operational expenses going forward. So why do we think, well, the other thing we always do if we don't have a certified net AV is we use a lower net AV to advertise the next budget, because there is the possibility that your assessed value can decline year over year. And I think that is a real possibility this year. If you look at the 84 counties that have approved their certified net AVs by district, they are all over everywhere. That's something that Policy Analytics showed us a couple weeks ago. And they're all over everywhere. Some are up, some are down, some are up 10%. I have no idea what that means for us. But if AV is basically flat, then that of course lowers the rate from what you've advertised, because you're taxing on more assessed dollars, so you don't need as high a rate to get it. And then there are some other factors in here. So one of the things you go, well, so where did this 14 cents of anticipated increase come from? So Kara and I looked at that. One is the max levy in the operations fund is allowed to grow by 4%. So if you didn't have a circuit breaker, you can grow your tax collection in your operations fund by 4% year over year. That's the statutory amount. Used to fluctuate. It's now set at 4%. So for us, that's about 192,000. Well, it takes 2.7 cents of tax to raise 192,000. So that of the 14 cents of increase from $1.07 to $1.21, almost 3 cents of it is the increase in the operations levy. Then you have cash balance that you can carry forward from year to year, and the state will use your cash balance to fund your budget in addition to anticipated tax collection in the next year. The debt service fund has all kinds of controls on it. And so if you have cash at the beginning of the year, they will use your cash to determine what tax rate you need. And basically you have to dedicate your cash to the budget that you're showing in the subsequent year. Well, what that means is year over year, you spend that cash, and then at the end of it, you lower your tax rate by spending that cash. Well, then the next year you have less cash, so you have to have a higher tax rate to backfill for where you don't have cash. Well, this happens to be a year for us where our upfront cash for the 25 budget was, it was 255,000 more than what we're showing for the 26 budget. So that means our tax rate has to raise 255,000 more for the debt service fund because it isn't available in cash to fund it. So that's another 3.5 cents. And then the rest of it, which is about 8 cents, is anticipated debt service for the bonds that you're about to issue for the roof. So if you end up with a higher tax rate, you go, where did that come from? It's those three factors that are contributing to that. Now, the rest of the story, remember, 90% plus of our homeowners are already at circuit breaker. We don't know what this SEA 1 does. It is lowering net AV for all homeowners. Actually, I guess it should, unless the market value is more than a 10% increase. And so that is a factor out there that you have to kind of reconcile, or you have to wrestle with, I guess I would say, in terms of what that impact is going forward. All that to say, we don't really know. We don't have a good sense of where that's going to be. The anticipated tax rate may be close. What does that mean in terms of actual collection? We don't know. By law, you're basically obligated to collect everything in your debt service fund, and you take all your circuit breaker loss from your operations fund. I'll throw one more thing out to you just so you know. The max levy in the operations fund is going to be about $5 million. We are also able to transfer about up to $3.5 million from the education fund to the operations fund. So you go, well, there's 8.4 million maybe of available revenue to fund the operations fund. Except, wait a minute, this year was $1.5 million of circuit breaker loss that all comes out of that fund. So you're dialing it back to below $7 million of available revenue. And DLGF tells us that our anticipated increase in our circuit breaker in 26 is another $1 million. So the operations budget being almost $9 million is fiction, because you'll have circuit breaker that will come out of there, and that could be $2.5 million plus or minus. And I went back and looked, and in 24 we spent like 6.1 million. I'm doing this from memory, in our operations fund. So, and another side note, not to go too far into the weeds, but I was just at another district. Well, David and Kristen were with me. A meeting we went to at another district, super nice facilities, small district. And I said, the first thing we're going to do when we get back is we're going to look up their circuit breaker. And their circuit breaker was $109,000 this year. Ours is about 1.5 million. And so again, it depends on how your AV is composed and what other units of government you're sharing your taxpayers with. And ask yourself, what could you do if you had an extra $1 million, $1.5 million every year in revenue in terms of facilities and staffing and some of that kind of stuff. So what I leave out, this is shock, at this point, I mean, you're advertising maximums, and hopefully we have more information by the time we come back for our budget adoption, which we're going to do at our October meeting. So.
Another increase in AV though in Mount Pleasant Township, if everybody gets dinged again, another goes up 10% for everybody, raises the cap, right? So technically the pie is going to get larger.
Yes, except you have the SEA 1 factors that are lowering the net AV by these additional homestead credits that are rolling in, as well as the fact that then you don't know what other units of government are doing. So the theory is, well, if everybody holds the line at the same amount and we raised our rate, then yeah, we might even be able to increase our revenue. But if everybody's raising their rates, then we share in the loss proportional to your tax rate. So
I'm assuming the Daughtry Preserve is TIFT, is the new
4, I think, but only, don't quote me, I think 3 out of the 4 were operating at the last meeting that I went to.
And the Ridge Group are they being abated as well?
Yes,
For
but
sure.
it wasn't who went to that meeting? One of you were my representative.
That was me.
That was you?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
You would know that one, sorry, off the top of my head. I remember it was
I've
they
slept
talked about
since
it the
then.
month before, but it wasn't gonna get finalized and I couldn't go and you were gonna be my replacement, so,
Yeah, I can't recall.
yeah.
I think it is, but I'm not sure of the length or
Yeah.
how long. It was a phase.
Most of them have been
Phase in.
10 years.
I was thinking
but-
this was less. I was thinking it was more like 5, maybe.
I can't quote it, I'm sorry. But yes, there was an abatement on it of some sort. I don't know if it had a tip though,
Okay.
an abatement.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the capital project plan?
capital projects plan is very different from what it used to be, and you essentially have to advertise any single project that you think that you are going to spend more than $10,000 on in a fiscal year. And from the capital projects fund, or from it's the operations fund, the capital projects line items. And how do I say this in a polite way? There is no enforcement power of that, and there's no process to say, oh, you didn't have that advertised in your capital projects fund, therefore you can't spend it. And keep in mind, we do spend for a lot of building improvements out of capital projects, but we spend most of it from bond proceeds or rainy day money.
Right.
So that's separate from the capital projects plan.
It feels more, even though I know you're plugging in general numbers, it feels more granular than what it used to be, because it felt like before we would plug in and say, okay, we're going to spend this much on technology and this much on maintenance, and it was like 2 categories.
It used to have to be building specific, and the state's DLGF's interpretation and SBOA's interpretation of that, I think, changed over time. But it was site specific, so you had to have a high school plan and a Pleasant View plan,
Right.
and then you had to break it down by category within the site.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you were allowed to balance out within your site, but you could not balance across sites. Am I remembering that correctly? And if you had extra money in this part of the plan over here and a need over here, you could not get it unless you had to go back and re-advertise your capital projects plan and have another hearing to do it. And if you didn't have your plan advertised right, the DLGF would zero out your appropriations in those areas when they gave you your budget order. So this is a much friendlier way to do it. What we try to do is, and you notice they're round numbers, but we try to put them in relative relation to what we could potentially spend based on prior year experience and anticipated additional projects. So.
Okay. Want to talk about bus replacement?
Well, again, you're obligated to advertise. It used to be on a 12-year cycle. Buses have gotten very expensive. And, again, depending on what we learn from policy analytics, depending on where our AV comes in, depending on how we deal with the very real possibility that we're going to have to make reductions in the operations fund, we'll look at it. Typically, we advertise for more replacement than we can fund. And again, you used to levy a separate tax rate for bus replacement. Now this is just part of the operations fund. And so we typically calculate what percentage of our levy we collect, and then we use that percentage to determine what percentage of our bus replacement plan we're going to fund each year. So we've had, most years we buy 2 buses. We might have had 1 year that we bought 3 since I've been here, and we are currently running 38 buses in our fleet. And so, you think about a 12-year replacement cycle, we should be replacing 3 or 4 buses every year. So we're not, and it's not illegal to run buses that are more than 12 years old. They have to be inspected twice a year as opposed to once by the state police. So
Ours are gently used. I've been told, Dr. Henshaw.
They do a good job, and I mean, I have received compliments more than once from the inspector for the condition that our buses are in. But
Okay, board, any questions for Dr. Henshaw on either the overall budget, the capital projects plan, or the bus replacement plan? And again, no actions required at this point in time.
right.
Okay, no further questions. We'll go to close the public hearing on the budget. And that brings us to item 6, adjournment. Anything else you want to share before we wrap it up?
I'm good.
Board, anything else you want to?
I just want to let you guys know we had the most participation. Yorktown had the most participation in Yorktown this year out of the entire county. So, and we had the top 4-H award also was one of our graduated Yorktown kids
That's
received.
awesome.
I don't know the exact dollar amount, but lots of scholarship dollars were handed out Sunday night. So
That's great. That's great.
Good.
Did everybody get a chance to look at the latest drone shots of the campus over there and the building? Starting to take shape. They're hanging basketball goals from the ceiling, and
And so the lettering got put on the press box today.
Oh, it did? I was over there early, so it must have happened
It
this
looked
afternoon.
really good.
well, in the shot that I saw, they had the roof on the concession building, and they had taken. It was hard to tell from
They're
that angle.
furring it out currently. I don't know if there was any siding. There was no siding on it when I was there at 11.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. So, really starting to.
And the
Take shape.
plaza is almost done on the inside of the gate.
Yeah,
So
it's looking
there'll
plausible.
be a little more surge space Friday night than there was the first game.
That's looking great, thank you.
Okay, it is 6:33, and we stand adjourned.
we have to sign anything.
Yes.
No.
What?